Alright, challenge 3. Big thing with challenge 3 is that you notice that the door is located at 6¼ inches, not 61. Alright, it is an 8-foot wall. We're going to put our studs at 16 inches on center, and that is where we're going to start. So just like before, you want to start marking your wall at 0. We're going to come here, mark our 0 on both our top and bottom plate. Okay? And then mark your 16 inches on center just like we normally would. I'm going to move my tape to the center. Okay, and from there, mark your 16ths. Now, as I mentioned before, your first door is at 6¼ inches. So, if you can't see, I'll try and bring this down so you get a little bit closer view. So we're going to come here, alright, keeping our tape at our 0. And I'm going to mark at 6¼ where that door opening is. Now remember, on a door, you're going to have your trimmer, you're going to have your king stud, and you're going to have several other things. But at 6¼ that's where that door opener begins. So remember, you can always go back and reference our pictures in classroom for how those parts come together. So, the instructions then tell us that from 6¼ that door opening is 1 foot 8 inches. So when you put that together, 1 foot is 12, 12 and 8, that gives us 20. So, from 6¼ 20 plus 6¼ gets us to 26¼ That is going to be where our door ends. So from each of those markings, I'm going to go in either direction. So my door is right here. So from 26¼ I'm going to go forward 1.5 inches. So that's going to be my trimmer. And then go forward 1.5 inches. And I have my king stud. Okay. And same thing back here from 6¼ Go back 1.5 inches, back 1.5 inches, and I have my trimmer and my king stud. Okay. All right. Now, remember on our top, we're not going to have our trimmer because our trimmer is actually called an upper cripple because the headers of our doors don't go all the way to the top. So make sure you mark those correctly. Even though okay, nope, I didn't. Okay. The next part of this wall, if you look in your instructions, tells us that we have a second door, and that door starts at 3 feet 8.5 inches. Well, 3 feet is 36. 36 plus 8 would get us to 44.5 inches, because it's 3 feet 8.5. So 36 and 4, yep, 44.5 inches. So if we kind of rotate this camera, again, 44.5 right there. So that's going to be where my window begins. And here I'm going to go back my 1.5 inches for my trimmer, back my 1.5 inches for my king stud, transfer those marks up. That would be an upper cripple and my king stud. And this particular door opening, it says, is 2 feet 10. So 2 feet 10 would wind up giving us 34 inches. So if I'm at 44.5, and I'm going to add on, I just said 34 to that. That's going to take us to 78.5, which takes us to right here. Now you'll notice when we get to 78.5, look what happens. We are right there at 80 inches, which is technically one of our 16 inches on center studs. So from 78.5, that would take me to 80, which is my trimmer, and then from 80 to 81.5, that would be my king stud. Okay. So as I finish this part out, stop the shaking. So when I look down here, you can see I still have to put in my stud at the end, but here at 80, instead of having a stud, I have an upper cripple and my king stud. At 64, instead of having a stud, I just have an upper cripple because I wouldn't have one in the door. At 48, I'm going to have an upper cripple instead of a stud. I have a king stud and an upper cripple here at 42.5 to 44.5. I would still have my stud at 32, and then I have my upper cripple and king stud from 26.25 to 29.25. I would have an upper cripple at 16, and then I would have my king stud and upper cripple down there at the end from 6.25 to 3.25, and finally my stud at the end where I start the wall. I'm going to let you guys fill those in and actually draw them in, and that's what we got going on.